Hello, Milford community. My name is Dr. Matthew Joseph, and I am the Director for Digital Learning and Innovation right here in the Milford Public Schools. And you can see me here at Milford High School broadcasting today because I was so excited about the content. Because last week I joined a Twitter chat. It was #HackLearning, and it was moderated by Pam Moran, which is at PAMMORAN, and at Ira Social, at IRASOCOL. It was a great chat, and there were so many great questions, and I know I learned a lot. The focus of the chat was about changes we can make in learning and a lot more. But I want to focus on one question. Question 1 asked, what would you do in the world in the year 2050 if you were to plan education? Wow, it was a lot to think about. So I quickly typed my answer in typical Twitter chat format, A1, and I said, we can't predict the jobs, but whatever they are, students will need to think critically to do them. So our job as educators is to teach our students how to think, not what to think. And after many more awesome questions, like one was such as, if you woke up tomorrow and the educational system was destroyed, what might we need to get kids from age 4 to age 18? So it was a great chat. And another one was, what current rule or significant constraint must be broken to build a school from scratch? So these are great questions. If you haven't checked out #HackLearning chat, it's great. But I want to go back to my first answer. I want to expand my thinking about the thought we want to talk about, and I thought it would be a great idea for the next MPS talk. So I like the Twitter chat structure, and they usually are about 1 hour, and I would like to do this one in under 15 minutes. So this is going to go fairly quickly, so I'm going to complete this in under 15 minutes, and then I'm going to maybe write a post about it in under an hour, just like the Twitter chat format, and put my thinking down. And if I run out of time, or if I go over, I've already asked the Milford TV people to shut it off, so I have to be concise and to the point. So let's start the clock. My answer in the Twitter chat really hit on the need to empower our students to be critical thinkers. I believe to be critical thinkers, educators need to provide students with the strategies and ask more than the surface level questions we ask students sometimes. Questions to students must motivate them to dig up background knowledge and then make connections to real world scenarios to make the learning more memorable and even more meaningful to students. Critical thinking is a general term. I believe the term means students effectively identify, analyze, and evaluate content or skills. In this process, the students will discover and then present convincing reasons to support their conclusions, their answers, or their thinking. Anybody can look up critical thinking in the definition, or even from Wikipedia for that matter, and what you would see, it would say critical thinking consists of a mental process of analyzing or evaluating information, particular statements or propositions that people have used that are often true. So I got to thinking, in my current role as the Director of Digital Learning and Innovation, I work and promote the use of 21st century tools, and more importantly, in thinking. And that's why we want to really ensure our students know how to think. So here's some key skills that I think will assist in critical thinking. We need to have communication and information skills. We need to have our students thinking and problem-solving skills. We need to have our students interpersonal and self-directional skills improved. Collaboration skills are very, very important. So those skills are skills that students are going to need in any field and in any level of education. They're universal. So going back to my question and answer to number 1 is that we need to teach our students to think critically and, more importantly, for themselves. I feel one of the goals of education is to prepare students to learn through discovery learning, active learning. Providing opportunities to learn how to be critical thinkers will assist students to analyze other people's thinking and examine the logic of somebody else's point of view. This is a very important skill in collaboration and in life. Critical thinking will allow students to do more than just memorize knowledge. So how do we do this? How does this happen? So I want to give you a few recommendations. So for us as educators to dig deeper into the questioning strategies and into lesson launches, we'll do that. Ask thoughtful questions to allow for answers with good reasoning. Students' thinking is shaped by the world around us. Quick answers, often in very few words and no eye contact. So when we're asking students questions and then provide them an answer, that's not helping them. Try to have them promote their own thinking and explain their answer. Such as, maybe ask a student, can you elaborate on that point? Or ask a student, could you express that point in another way? Or could you give me an illustration? Or maybe even say, could you give me an example of your thinking and could you give me more detail about it? And these types of questions, like could you be more specific, really help students' critical thinking. How about another one? Should we need to consider another point of view? We already talked about other people's thinking. So is there another way to look at this question or utilize critical thinking skills? These are ways that students can dig into deeper learning. And this change in the paradigm of teaching and learning is going to help our learners become more active learning. However, thinking about some of the questions that I saw last week at the hashtag #HackLearning chat, the engagement in learning and application of knowledge will definitely enhance the collaboration among teachers and students and provide the way students can succeed if the school system had to start over. We talk about engagement, we talk about application and collaboration. Those are all skills that withstand the test of time. I know that I have blogged in the past about other educational topics around active learning, and I think that's a necessity for teaching of this critical thinking. I'm also promoting critical thinking by integrating into every aspect of instruction. So I like to give recommendations or examples. So a few of those recommendations are maybe begin your lessons or units with a probing question. That question you can't answer with a yes or no question. That's not a probing question. Probing question should inspire discovery learning and problem solving. Another thing I would recommend is encourage creativity. I've seen many times teachers prepare projects before they give it to their students. Like I was an elementary principal for 11 years. I've seen snowmen or other creative projects where teachers cut out all the circles beforehand. Well, that removes the creativity. Yes, it may help the classroom run more smoothly if every child's material is already cut out, but then everything looks the same or is the same color. Not having everything prepared in advance is a good thing. Instead, give students all the supplies that they need to create something like the snowman example and let them do it in their own thinking. This will allow students to become critical thinkers because they will have to create it with their own supplies that you give them. Yes, this is a very simple explanation, but it's the first one I could think of in this short period of time that I have. Speaking of jumping into things, try not to jump to help too fast. Let the students work through productive struggle. It's good for students to struggle because then they learn how to problem solve. Another example is build in opportunities for students to find connections in their learning. Encouraging students to make connections to a real-life situation and identify patterns is a great way to practice their critical thinking skills. The use of real-world scenarios will increase rigor, relevance, and definitely critical thinking. A few other techniques is to encourage critical thinking. Let me think of a couple more. Well, how about use analogies or promote interactions among other students? You can ask open-ended questions. You can definitely allow for reflection time because that sparks up the critical thinkings. And as I said earlier, use real-life problems and allow for the thinking to be part of students' practice. So I looked at the clock right now. We have about 3 minutes left. So I'm going to wrap up what we're talking about, and definitely make sure to check out the MPS Talks, and I'll blog and post this on my blog, which is techinnovation.live. So to wrap up, critical thinking prepares students to think for themselves for the rest of their lives. I also believe critical thinkers are less likely to just go with the flow because they think for themselves. I am hopeful that this MPS Talks in the blog post will encourage educators to design lessons with the goal and the time for students to internalize and analyze concepts that they are learning. So if we think back about 15 minutes for my first question that I posed from the Twitter chat, it was, what do you know about the world in 2050 that lets you plan an education for that? Well, as I said, we can't predict the jobs, but whatever the students will need, they will need to think critically to do them. So our job as educators is to teach our students how to think, not what to think, in order to increase those critical thinking skills. And I hope some of the points and suggestions that we talked about today will help you out. So feel free to continue to watch the MPS Talks right here at Milford TV, or as I'm standing here today at Milford High School. Follow me on Twitter at Milford_Tech, and you can follow all the great things happening and all the critical thinking that's happening right here in the Milford Public School at milfordschools.com. I'm sorry, that's the website, at Milford Schools. So have a great day, and thank you for turning in, Milford Community.